welcome to another exciting episode of What's Cooking. My name is Mona Ahmed. I'm the founder, owner, and chief everything officer of Mona's Creations, where we want to make it easy to cook Pakistani Indian cuisine at home. You can learn more from our website listed below, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on our products. So, welcome everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. May peace and blessings be upon all of you. I'm so excited to be back with you all today, and I hope you're doing well. And I thought today would be fun if we made a very popular dish. It's called butter chicken. And the other names for it too is called chicken makhni. So you have the chicken part and you have makhni. And makhni really means butter or buttery. And you probably also seen it on the menu as murg makhni. And again, murg means chicken in our language and makhni means the buttery. And the interesting part about this dish is that, yes, we will use butter today, but you really can also use oil to make it. But so in addition to the makhni part, butter also, they're also saying that it's kind of like it means smooth. So it's a smoother sauce. So, and I thought it would be nice if we could pair it with some garlic naan today. So with that, let's get started. Today we'll be working with 15 ingredients. I'm using about 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast. I'm also using about a medium-sized onion. We've peeled it and chopped it. And we're going to be using some water. We're also using some ground ginger and some ground garlic, both of them fresh. You can also use powder in this recipe. We're also going to be using about 1/2 cup of yogurt, a cup of cream, and about almost like 1.75 cups of tomato puree. And of course, here's our star of the show, the butter. But again, we'll be using 4 ounces, and but you could use oil as well as ghee. In terms of our spices, we're going to be using garam masala. We're going to be using some turmeric, some paprika, and some salt, and some cumin powder, and some dried fenugreek leaves. And the way we're going to do the butter chicken is that we're really going to, it's kind of a 2-step process. We're first going to marinate the chicken for a little bit, we'll sear it, and then we'll put it all in the sauce, and then everything will cook. I do try to make the recipe a little easier just because I know everybody's pressed for time. But yes, if you Google this recipe, there will be many variations to it. And of course, once you start making it, you'll also come up with your own version of it. And what we'll do first is we will create the marinade. So let's start off in here. I will put the chicken in, but we're going to put the yogurt. Let me use a spoon for that. And again, this is 1/2 cup of plain yogurt. You don't want any flavored yogurt. Now, yogurt is used to actually tenderize the chicken. And of course, the longer you keep the marinade, the more the tender the chicken is. But if you don't really have too much time, that's okay. It's fine also without marination for too long. We have 1/2 cup of yogurt. We're going to use about 1 teaspoon of salt. Salt, just like, many of our recipes, it's as desired. If you want to put less, you can. If you want to put more, you can. But in this case, I'm going to be putting about 1 teaspoon of salt just for the marinade. So I'm going to use 1 tablespoon, and since I have a teaspoon with me right now, so I'll use 3 teaspoons of garam masala. So we have our salt, our yogurt, and our garam masala, and that will be our marinade. So we'll just mix it. It's a very simple marinade, but already I can smell the aromas. It smells so good. Because again, it's the garam masala that really speaks to you. Okay, so now let's work with our chicken. And what I did was, as you can see, it's boneless, skinless chicken breast. And what I did was really, I washed it, and I actually trimmed all the fat and anything that really I didn't want on the piece, and then I cut it into like 1-inch pieces. And so here's just an example of what's left. Go here. And I don't get very fancy with it, but I do want the pieces not to be too big, more bite size. And I'm going to add it to the marinade. And again, I'm using about 1.5 pounds of a boneless, skinless chicken breast. People like to use also boneless, skinless chicken thighs, just because they feel that it's a juicier piece of chicken, and it's really your preference. I prefer to use breast meat, but if you have thighs, please feel free to do that. One thing you do notice though with butter chicken is that you'll find that people do use the boneless, skinless version. You don't really find bones in it or skin in it. Okay, so now I'm just going to mix the chicken. And again, we're just going to lightly coat it. I purposely didn't put too much yogurt because our goal is to sear this chicken. And the more yogurt I put in, the more water will be released. And the chicken already releases water. And so I wanted the process to be somewhat quicker than usual. That's why I didn't put too much yogurt. So I think for the pound and a half a cup of yogurt, plain yogurt is fine. And you could use whole fat yogurt or you could use low fat yogurt, it doesn't matter. But yogurt is like the tenderizer. Okay, so we're gonna let this marinate. You can marinate it for about 15-20 minutes, but really, you know, we'll actually start the cooking process sooner, and that's okay. And but if you have time, you can definitely marinate it for about 15-20 minutes. So since we want to sear the chicken, let me go get the pot. We want the heat to be high because these pieces won't be in there too long. We really don't want the chicken to cook for too long because it'll cook when it's in the sauce too. But we will, so I'm going to put the stove on high. And in there, I'm going to put half of a stick of butter. So as I mentioned earlier, so one stick is usually 4 ounces of butter. 4 ounces of melted butter, you could say. And if you didn't want to use butter, you didn't want to make it so decadent, you can definitely use olive oil, canola oil, any kind of oil that you have on hand. And if you have ghee, you can use ghee. But I'm using butter. And so the stove is on, and I'm going to put the butter in here. And so we are making it a little decadent. Okay, so we can just let that melt. So in terms of searing the meat, we really just want it to be brown on both sides. And because I have about 1.5 pounds, I don't want to overcrowd the pan. So I will probably have to do this in about 2 or 3 batches. But it really takes about maybe 7 to 10 minutes to get it to sear on both sides. And once we're done, we'll just put it on the side and then we'll add it later to the sauce. As you can tell, the butter is starting to melt. And so the heat is also, oh, we can start seeing the smoke point. And I can actually start putting in the chicken. So I'll take it one piece at a time. Chicken is usually bite size, but yeah, I know in the searing process, it does take a little time just to put all the pieces in, but the results are worth it. So, you know, you may say that, oh, you know, doesn't butter chicken remind you of chicken tikka masala? And you know, you're right. There are a lot of similarities, but there are a lot of differences too. And one of them being that you'll notice we're not going to really use any red chili powder. And it's because chicken tikka masala is the one that uses more the heat. And butter chicken is more so milder. And so I think kids especially, they enjoy both, but I think butter chicken is a little more, if you don't like too much heat, they tend to like that. And then there are other differences as well, and that's why you'll notice that when you go to a restaurant, both of them are on the menu. And both of them are liked for various reasons. So you can hear the sizzling. And again, I don't want to overcrowd the pan, but let me put some more pieces in here. And now you can smell the butter and the garam masala. There's always a question. There are always questions surrounding, okay, what are the origins of these dishes? And I think it always begins with, you know, we had tandoori chicken and then, or spiced chicken, but then we wanted some gravy, or the customers wanted some gravy, and the chef went back to the restaurant kitchen, and this is what they created. And now these are beloved dishes, very popular dishes, very popular dishes. And for good reason. They really are tasty and full of flavor. So as you can see at this time, the chicken is searing, right? We're going to, but because there's the butter in there, so that's the liquid, and we have the yogurt in there, those are releasing as well as some of the water from the chicken. And so that's why this process does take about, you could say 10 minutes for like one batch. But the nice thing is that you can do all of this in one pan, because once the chicken's ready and we put it on the side, you can also then, we're going to use the same pot to create the gravy. Another thing is that I am using some variations, like for example, I'll be using onions to create the sauce, but you'll find that a lot of people for butter chicken use ground cashews or almonds to make the base of the sauce and make it thicker. And so I'm making a nut-free version, but you'll find, and so if you do have any nut allergies and you do like butter chicken, or even chicken tikka masala, I would say you definitely ask the server to confirm if they're using nuts or not, because a lot of times the restaurants do use nuts, and just to make the base. And again, it's just to make it creamier, and it gives some taste to it as well. So right now I'm just turning it to see if it's ready on one side, but I don't think so, not as yet. Chicken cooks quite fast, and that's the nice thing. And of course, the bigger the piece, then that it takes longer to cook. But usually you do want to make sure it's about 165 degrees of temperature. Okay, so I'm turning it, and you'll see that it's starting to get a little brown at the bottom, and that's fine. There you go. You see the colors changing of the chicken. And you really just want to give it that color, a little bit of color. And it really seals in the juices too, because right now it's cooking on high heat, and then you'll see that once we put in the curry, it is actually going to then be cooking on lower heat. So you can hear it. It was really nice. I had an opportunity to actually do this recipe also with some school kids, and I was so happy to hear afterwards that they felt it was easy enough for them to make it even after the show, which was really nice. And because again, we're all about trying to have good meals faster. And hopefully you'll find this recipe is also easy enough to make. Butter chicken has also become so popular. You'll find that it's not only eaten just as a curry. You'll find that people are doing butter chicken pizzas, butter chicken flavored samosas, butter chicken flavored, a lot of things. And, once we make this, I mean, we will be pairing it with some naan, but you could really, you can make a little pizza out of it. The flavors are, it's flavorful, yet they're not too strong. And of course, it depends on the stove. Everybody has a different cooking stove. And so sometimes it's a little faster, sometimes it takes a little longer. As you can see in my pot, some of the pieces are a little more brown compared to the other pieces. But I think this is good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these pieces into a clean bowl. Because remember, whenever you're using raw chicken, please do be careful. I mean, we may have a little bit of the marinade left, and so you can always put some more raw chicken in it to use it, but otherwise, if you're not, then just discard the remaining marinade. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to put it in a bowl. And then I'm going to put the next batch in. Okay, as you can see in the pot, I still have plenty of oil, or you could say the butter, and so we can add our next batch. Okay, so while this is happening, why don't we just prepare our onions? So as I was mentioning, we will be using onions for this recipe instead of the cashews or almonds to make the base. And so basically I have, I've already chopped, it was a medium-sized onion, and I've chopped half of it. And because remember how I was mentioning that makhni also means smooth? So you'll find that many times people, when we do the gravy, they actually use it and put it in a blender, or they puree it. I feel that you don't have to take that step. And one of the ways you don't have to is because we're using tomato puree. And another reason is that I feel that if we do the onions more finely chopped, and even the ginger and garlic being more chopped already in advance, like grinded, then you don't have to worry about it. You'll still get that smooth texture. So all I'm doing is just kind of like finely chopping the onions. You know, it's really your choice what kind of onions you like to use. This is your regular yellow onion. They're sweet onions, they're red onions. It's really what you have on hand. Any onion is fine. But yeah, we just basically, we peeled it and we washed it, and now we're going to chop it. And so as you can see, the pieces are a little smaller, and they're also going to soften as we do the curry. Okay. If you have a big onion, just use half. If you have a small onion, then just use 2. Okay, and now that's ready, and we have the other onions also. Okay, I think this is good. Let's take it out. You know what? I'm going to use my spoon now for this. It's easier. Here. So you can see there's some bits of the chicken left in here, and we're going to leave it right in here. There's no need to take it out because it'll just go in the sauce. Okay, so let's put the chicken on the side. And here we have the butter. But at this time, I'm going to add my remaining butter. So again, I'll put the other half of 1 stick of butter, which is 2 ounces. You're going to let it melt. And I'm also going to lower my heat now a little bit. So let's go to now medium-high. And at this time, we will also add the onions. Because we're just going to caramelize them a little bit. We don't want them to be very brown, but we do want them to soften and change a little bit in color. You hear the sizzling has stopped a little bit because again we did reduce the heat, and now the onions are going to take a little, they're going to start to release their water. As you can tell, we use a lot of onions in our cooking. You know, we really feel that it really is the base of a lot of our foods. And we feel that it really also has a lot of therapeutic value, you know, to eat onions. And so, okay, here you go. You see that it is, now this is cooking in the butter. And what's nice about this is like a 1-pot dish. You don't have to worry about, you know, messing up too many dishes or pots and pans. While this is caramelizing, let's see. Okay, so we have our heavy cream. We need some water also. Just want to make sure we have our spices. This step also takes about, you could say, 5 to 10 minutes. But again, you don't want it to be too caramelized. You know, like in some of our other recipes, we really want it to be very like light brown. This one does not have to be that. This one is more so just let's soften it and let the color of the onion change a little bit, and then it's good to go. Like, I think this is ready. So now let's put in our ginger and our garlic. Ginger, I grinded it at home, and I basically just am using 1 teaspoon of fresh ginger. Let's put this in here. And same thing for my garlic. I just basically, I pureed some garlic, fresh garlic, and this is also 1 teaspoon. And we're really just going to saute this for about a few seconds. Okay. I think that's good. And now let's add our other ingredients. So we will add our tomato puree. So I'm using about 14 ounces of tomato puree. Again, I like the brands that don't have too many other preservatives or anything to it. It's basically just tomatoes, crushed tomatoes. And And so this one is 14 ounces, or you could say 1.75 cups. Put that in there. And then I'm also going to put some water. I'm going to use about 2/3 cup of water. And I can also put my spices. So we're going to use another tablespoon of garam masala. So since I have a teaspoon, we'll use 3 of these. 1, 2, and 3. Now paprika helps give the color. So, and luckily paprika doesn't have too much heat to it. And that's how this dish does continue to remain mild. If you want to add a little bit of chili powder itself, that you can do. But again, this is a more milder dish and paprika does its job. And so for paprika, we will put 2 teaspoons paprika. You know, similar to turmeric, paprika adds color. So, you know, so because we make our products, since we put turmeric in it, since it does add color, that's something that we do have to state in the ingredient statement. And so same thing with paprika, you would do the same just because it adds color. Okay, we're going to use teaspoon of turmeric. Now, again, I know I put a teaspoon of salt for the chicken, but I will put another teaspoon of salt for this. But as I mentioned, if you're watching your salt, then please, you know, feel free to use less or not as much, definitely. So we're also going to use some cumin powder. Same thing, instead of the full seeds, we're using ground cumin powder. It smells so good. And this one we're also going to use 2 teaspoons of. And as you can see, I'm really just putting everything in. And so fenugreek. I love fenugreek, and this is the dried version. And you can put about a teaspoon of that. But before we put it in, I would like to put, just crush it a little bit in my hands, because that helps release the flavors. Let me just do that. There we go. I'm just going to mix it. And I'm going to put in our heavy cream. So I'm using heavy cream. It's 1 cup. You can, of course, also use light cream. You can also use half and half, again, depending on what you'd like. But you'll notice as soon as I put in the cream, the color is going to change. And we'll mix it. So it's quieted. It's gotten quieter now in the kitchen because everything is now starting to blend. And we're going to add the chicken now. So we're going to take our chicken, and even the juices, as you can see, they're kind of, you know, they're at the end, but I'm going to put everything in. It's all great stuff. Just be careful it doesn't splatter. Okay, and we're really just going to mix it in. And now the goal is that we're going to let it cook on low to medium heat for about 10 minutes, or really until we start seeing that the butter starts to surface. And that'll give us an idea that everything is cooked and ready. So I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'll cover it fully. And again, I just want to make sure that it's about low to medium heat. And we'll keep an eye on it, but about like 8 to 12 minutes, it should be ready. Let's check on our dish. And as you can see, it's bubbling. Oh, it smells so good. Now, of course, you can have butter chicken with rice too. And but I thought today it would be nice if we did something a little different by using naan and garlic naan. But of course, you can have it with both things, right? So today I actually got some garlic naan. And in one of my previous episodes, I had mentioned that, you know, there's so many varieties of naan, which is really nice. And you can even make this at home if you'd like. You know, if you just had plain naan, you can just put a little bit of butter on and then sprinkle some cilantro as well as some fresh chopped garlic. I mean, it's right here and I can smell the garlic. It smells so good. And I actually got this from an ethnic store, and so they come frozen. And all you really have to do is just warm it up quickly. But I thought that why don't I just cut up some of the pieces of the naan to like maybe make it in half. And so I'll just do this. And we'll warm it up in the oven. You can warm it up in the toaster, a toaster oven, the oven. I think one time, yeah, we warmed it up in the skillet. You just want to warm it up a little bit. You can really put any shape that you'd like. Of course, it doesn't matter. But it's it adds some additional flavors to the meal. I think you'll find in the grocery store, you'll even find this garlic naan in the, like it doesn't have to be in the freezer section. It can also be in the refrigerator section or even in like the bakery area. So we'll put that, it really just needs to warm for about 1 to 2 minutes. And so as we get closer to the curry being completely cooked, I'll put in the oven. So the goal is to just see that when the butter starts to surface, and we're starting to see that actually. So whether it's oil or butter, whatever it is, whatever fat you're using, just basically you just want it to start surfacing, and then let you know it's cooked. I'm just increasing the heat just a little bit. Okay, so I will put the naan in the oven right now, and we'll let it warm for 2 minutes. I just put it on the top rack, and that's it. You probably also noticed there are a lot of ingredients that you can control, right? You can control the butter, you can control the salt, you can control the heavy cream, and you can put your versions of what you like in here. So next time when you go to a restaurant and you see this dish, and you can say, I know how to make that. You can have a cooking showdown. Okay, let's see. Okay. I have the naan. And then what we'll do is I'll turn off the stove because this looks good. Looks ready. Say Alhamdulillah, which means thank God. It looks good. We're grateful for all our blessings and the food we're about to eat. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the stove and I'll plate it. You can use a bowl, of course, if you'd like. I'm using a plate right now. Basically. We'll do that. And here you go. Okay, everyone, so I hope you enjoyed the show. I really did too. The kitchen smells so good right now, and I hope yours does too when you get a chance to try this recipe. If there's anything that you'd like me to make, please let us know. You know, I'd love to hear your ideas as well. And I hope you had a fun time. I sure did. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Khudafis. May peace and blessings be upon all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.